Rob.
Yeah. Meeting's called to order. If everyone would please rise for the pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Steve Eisenbarth,
Present.
Robert Pope,
Present.
Aaron Tivaball, Don Loudon,
Present.
and Greg Zuzan.
Present.
Okay, before we get started with the consent agenda, I just wanted to make the public aware for anyone that might be here for the PUD. The petitioner has withdrawn the PUD from tonight's agenda, so wanted to make sure everyone knew that before we got too far in. And then also, we have a NOVA Award, our first recipient here. Get her? Our first recipient of the NOVA Award is here this evening. And Jared, are you going to make that presentation? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. It's for everybody. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Susie, Joe, could you come up here? Would you mind joining me? You can stay right there. I have a few things that I would like to read and share. The town of Avon has been promoting a new program called the Avon Nova. Now, this award is a program focused on encouraging the community to submit nominations of people that are doing good locally so that we may share their stories to hopefully encourage more community members to focus on the small acts of good that happen every day. Every month, we look at all of the submissions and choose one that best represents Avon's values, integrity, respect, and pride. Tonight, we present the very first Avon Nova Award. Submitted by Brittany, tonight we recognize Susie and Joe Walton. Brittany stated that Susie and Joe are selfless individuals, and they go above and beyond to help anyone time and time again. Susie has been Brittany's babysitter for over 6 years, and there are multiple occasions where Susie and Joe have gone and bought clothes for kids when their parents were struggling. If they notice a parent is overwhelmed with life, they offer to keep them for some extra time so that way the parent can get just a little bit of an extra break. One time, they went above and beyond when a young girl in the community sadly committed suicide. They took the lead at the celebration of life, helping things run smoothly. You don't have to ask for anything with Susie and Joe. This, quote, dynamic duo just steps in and knows exactly what to do. When COVID happened, Brittany got called to work in the hospital to help as a nurse. Susie and Joe dropped their camper off in her driveway so she could shower without having to worry about taking the germs inside of her home. They kept her kids the night after she would work so she could decompress. Susie and Joe just took control of the situation and let Brittany know how they were helping. If everyone in Avon were as caring as these two individuals, our town would be simply amazing. Susie and Joe, thank you for being a shining light in this world. Thank you for caring for those that need it without asking. Thank you for supporting our healthcare workers when they were supporting us. And thank you for teaching and caring for the children of the community and showing them the values of being a good and decent human being. On behalf of the entire town of Avon, thank you, Susie and Joe Walton. We would actually like to present you with a certificate of recognition and a small token of our appreciation for truly being an Avon Nova. So we want you to stay up here. We're going to take a few photos, and while we're taking those photos, we're going to show a video. So I'm going to run back there and hit start on the video, and then we'll take some pictures right up here.
Yeah, baby.
All right, back to the agenda. Thank you for allowing us some time to get some pictures with our first Avon Nova Award recipients. We will start then with the consent agenda, which is the check register and minutes.
I make a motion, we approve the check registers presented and the minutes from the 7/8/2021 work session, the 7/8/2021 and 7/22/21 council meetings.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Julie?
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. The public may comment on items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. Is there anyone that would like to come forward and speak? And if so, please state your name and your address.
Good evening, Council. Ryan Wathen with the Coalition for Responsible Growth, 1480 Laurel Oak Drive here in Avon.
Oh, sure. Hi.
Ryan Wathen, Coalition for Responsible Growth, 1480 Laurel Oak Drive here in Avon. This new system that we have of previewing potential developments to the town council for comment prior to being introduced, I think is a great system. It's good for the council, it's good for the town, it's good for the petitioners, frankly. And at tonight's meeting, now I understand that it's been taken off, but a multi-family townhouse PUD was proposed and was scheduled to be introduced tonight. I will say this, while there may be a time and a place in Avon to approve a townhouse development, the proposal that was scheduled for tonight is not it. First, it's in the wrong place. Despite the petitioner's assertion, this is not transitional property, is not designed to attract young professionals. It's a high-density development of 155 households crammed onto 16 acres with one entrance. The land is in an area that has serious viable prospects of business and commercial development. And because Avon has such a finite amount of land left to develop, it does not make sense to sacrifice good potential business development land so close to Ronald Reagan for high-density housing. Secondly, the zoning UDO survey that was conducted last year clearly indicated this was not the direction that the citizens of Avon wanted to go. We want more businesses, we want a balanced tax base, we want less density, and we want higher quality in our developments. Everything about this PUD is the direct opposite of that. Last, let's address the quality. Everyone agrees Avon does not need more bland vinyl boxes. Yet that is what this is. It is not multiple bland vinyl boxes. It is one vinyl box, or one large vinyl box and then another large vinyl box next to it. Townhouses can have a place in our housing options, but they need to be high quality. They need to be attractive, have texture, design elements, and multiple durable materials combined to make them pleasant to look at. As an example, I would encourage you all to look at the new apartment building that Plainfield just put up at 267 and 40. It is a very attractive building. It has nice quality. It has wrought iron on it. It looks good. If we are going to add any multifamily housing to Avon, let's make sure that it's at least of that quality. So for those reasons, I'm asking you that whenever this is reintroduced, that you as a council advise the petitioner to either materially alter their proposal or simply withdraw it altogether. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
Bob Culler, 1483 Laurel Oak Drive, Avon, Indiana. I just want to say a big thank you to, the Avon Police Department, the Indiana State Police, the Washington Township Fire Department, all the vendors, all the participants in the National Night Out. It was fantastic again. I know that my family enjoyed it immensely, and I think everyone else there had an excellent time. So again, thank you to the town and the Police Department for helping coordinate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? If not, we'll go ahead and close public comment and start with department updates. Robert? Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking liaison. Go ahead. Any department updates? Sean?
Good evening. I'll just start right off where Bob left off. We want to thank everybody for coming out for a National Night Out. We think we had around 4,800 to 5,000 people there. Not only do we want to thank everybody that came out to share that evening with us, but we want to give a special thanks to all of our officers and everyone that helped volunteer, all of you that helped volunteer. It really takes everybody to make that event happen and make it such a success that it has become. So thank you for that. Officer Michael, Officer Davey, Officer Rourke, they all resumed their law enforcement training this week with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. It was discontinued a couple weeks ago due to some COVID-19 outbreaks. So they had to shut down the academy. It took them about a week to get things going again, but now they're up and running, doing virtual training again. And we expect the in-person training to resume here in a couple weeks in smaller groups as they break out to do different on-site training. Construction on the police station building addition is scheduled to resume next week once the new trusses arrive. There was a discrepancy in the trusses that were delivered and they had to be reworked, and we expect those to be delivered tomorrow and construction to begin hopefully next week. Avon Police Department will be hosting our annual blood drive on September 13th. If you'd like to donate blood, that's going to be here on September 13th from 1 to 4 p.m. You can go to donate.indiana.versity.org to schedule an appointment. That way you won't have to wait. As soon as you get here, you walk in and they'll take you right in and get you going. Our hiring process is underway. You can get more information about the Avon Police Department hiring process at avongov.org. Follow the police heading and then on into the recruit heading. And you can get more information and actually apply on our preliminary online application and get scheduled to take the physical agility test and the written exam on September 18th of 2021. Our crime gun task force made several arrests of violent offenders this week again. It resulted in both state and federal charges. The team collectively recovered several stolen guns, large quantities of illegal drugs, as well as cash and other items of evidence related to those cases. We do have one member of our department recovering from COVID. That person was isolated about 2 weeks ago through contact tracing and did develop some symptoms and did have some trouble with it, but he's recovering, doing well, and we hope to have him back very soon. That's all we have.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Sean.
Bill Peoples, I'm the planner here for the town. Board of Zoning Appeals met in July. They had 2 cases on the agenda. They were 2 really minor cases dealing with the depth to width ratio. They approved both of them. The Plan Commission did have 5 items on the agenda, including the big one on that one was the Misty Eyes Animal Center. Misty Eyes did get an approval for their the expansion of their land use. They do have to go back to the Board of Zoning Appeals and get an extension on their gravel parking area. And my staff is talking to Misty Eyes about at least getting us some information so we can put them on the September docket. Board of Zoning Appeals does not meet in August. They had no cases on file for the August meeting. And the Plan Commission does have 5 on its agenda. Wow, I hear myself. 3 of them are zoning amendments, map changes. They're all fairly simple. The big case on this agenda is the Millstone primary plat. It should be noted that is a primary plat. Plan Commission, it's a ministerial petition, which means the Plan Commission, if it meets all the standards of the ordinance, the Plan Commission does not have a choice on whether they approve or deny it. But it's a primary plat, which means state law requires us to hold a public hearing on it, regardless of whether the Plan Commission can or cannot approve it. My review of that plat, it meets all the standards of the zoning ordinance. I believe the Plan Commission must approve that plat, but that one will probably have significant amount of remonstrance to it at the meeting, just in case you all hear about it. Daniel is working on GIS. He's got his program. We're updating the zoning map, trying to get that thing squared away. He's today downloaded, I think, at least he was supposed to download the census data, because the census data was released today. And so hopefully if he can get that stuff geocoded to the census tracts, we might be able to get some census data for you when you want it based on the 2010 census. That's really all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Steve Moore, Public Works. County Road 100 South reconstruction. They began stabilization of the road. Cement stabilization helps it to then have a better base, and then they can work on it. We call it a working platform, in addition to being part of the pavement section. You can actually drive over the bridge. I've driven over it, I don't know, for about a week now. So it's a better access. We'll have less construction vehicles sneaking through the neighborhoods. thank goodness. So they'll be able to dump out on the Dan Jones like they should in the first place, so we'll keep vehicles hopefully out of the neighborhoods. 100 North Raceway, we're still negotiating fee and schedule. 150 South and Avon High School, that traffic signal that would give a green to the side street when nobody was there is fixed. So yeah, there'll be less delays for those people that are on 150. We also 150 at Dan Jones, we've upgraded the traffic signal equipment there, so we'll have less errors. Last school year around when they let out at the end of the day, an unusual number of flashing lights. And so hopefully we've resolved that with upgrading that equipment. 100 North and Raceway traffic signal, before the roundabout goes in, we're going to upgrade that equipment. That should happen next week. So that equipment right now is on rental, and we'll get that off rental and we'll have our own equipment out there. The guardrail on the northwest corner, we've been working with the prosecutor's office. They have the person that hit the guardrail, and we've submitted a claim, and hopefully that'll get repaired with somebody else's money. Dan Jones Road widening, we're still in the right-of-way acquisition process. That's going pretty well. Stormwater utility, the second quarter bills went out in July, and I think it went out, we actually were able to change the way we bill so that people who don't want bills after they've paid won't continually to get bills. So we've hopefully have accommodated those people. Stream bank protection on White Lick Creek, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is still completing the design. We're working with them. I think I don't know if we found a lay down area or agreement with them yet, but we're going to try to do that, and that's going to progress that project. Fog seal, our annual maintenance plan, the fog seal is done for this year. We're done with all the neighborhoods. We're going to begin crack sealing on Monday, and that should take about a week or so. They started pavement marking today where they're not going to crack seal. We're going to head and put the pavement markings in. They started in the northwest part of the community today, and they'll be back next week. They're not going to work tomorrow. Roadside mowing, we're doing that as normal. We're also fixing some drainage issues. They fixed that long standing drainage issue by Fairwood. The water was actually running out onto the road, and we actually ditched it, put it in some riprap, and we've seeded and sodded around it, so that's all fixed finally. We worked with the utilities to get their boxes repaired and actually relocated away from the edge of the road up onto the bank so it didn't pose a hazard. Traffic calming policy, since you guys have approved it, a couple of neighborhoods have reached out and we're in talks with them about possible implementation. Street sweeping is ongoing on an as needed basis. We're going to do a couple streets ahead of the crack sealing that are really bad. Normally just blow the rocks, but if we blow these rocks into people's yards, they won't like it. So we're going to sweep them up. And then potholing is ongoing. What else we got? I think that's pretty much it. Are there any questions?
First, I like these expanded versions because it kind of helps the public to get everything. So thank you. On 100 North and Raceway, when we have the new equipment in there and we're done and we're building the roundabout eventually, the equipment, we keep possession of it and then we use it at another location, or we turn it over to the signal company, or how's that work?
Okay, so we own it. We got a really good deal. We got about $60,000 worth of equipment for $20,000. So, we bought this stuff knowing that we have other intersections. We have 8 intersections that we maintain. And so as that equipment goes down, we'll have spares. We won't have to rent equipment either temporarily or on a semi-permanent basis, or even, buy we'll be able to replace it with what we have. So that's the whole idea, is not to get into that rental situation again, because you pay more in rental than it costs to buy if you keep it there very long.
No, that's great. Good planning on that. And then hopefully salvage rights, when we do actually build there, if we have a place to store any of the, string poles or anything like that,
Yeah, we do the strain poles up there and we do the other equipment in the maintenance barn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope, thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Mike Tully, Planning and Building. How are you?
Good, Mike.
Good. You've got my monthly report from the end of July, and you can see we're almost $49,000 above revenue from this period last year. So we're doing really well on that. And thanks for Ryan being conservative, because he had us projected at about 300,000 in revenue, and we're already over that. So some fun items for you. Well, I think they're fun anyway. I'm sure you've seen Costco going up, and they're pushing that building really hard. Station 144 has started coming out of the ground on County Road 900. We've been doing inspections at Murphy Aquatic Park. That's some big stuff they're putting in down there. So if you get a chance to run by there, it's pretty neat to watch it. And of course, the big one, Avon Logistics, they're setting the precast concrete panel walls around the perimeter. They had steel delivery starting yesterday, so there's trucks constantly running in and out of there. We thought we've been out there every day. We thought we were getting close to them turning the corner where they were going to complete the building, and they went, oh, we still have another 600 feet to go south. So it's been a really fun project, and Julie and Kathy were nice enough to go out with me one day to check footing. So now she's an expert on it. You don't need me for that. So, but pier pads, she didn't get it right that day, but she's got it now. So other than that, we're up over 9,400 field inspections for the year and the building staff. So we're staying busy. You have any questions for me?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks much.
Is that everybody? John, you're not coming? Thank you. All right, on to council comment and liaison reports.
Just had the township board meeting earlier this week. They just started on their budget process. They went over a few more Murphy Park Station 144 updates. Nothing real major. That's it.
I just thought the Police National Night Out, they did a phenomenal job like always, and I was just happy to be part of it. Putting my hands in that cold ice bucket, just get sodas out. My fingers were numb for 3 days, but other than that, we had the collaboration meeting today. We'll have the chamber board meeting tomorrow, and next year on whatever we call that thing that we did, that ridiculous hot chicken wing.
Oh, yes.
I'm not doing it next year. So that's all I have.
We'll vote on that. Steve?
I've got a suggestion on the National Night Out Against Crime. I think, Greg, what you could do is you could switch off of Dawn and Robert that were doing the hot dogs, and those guys, they were just working. I had it easy. All I did is I man a booth, and then I had Steve Moore come and help me out, and have Gerald, and I just have to answer questions about why the roadways are so packed. That was easy.
You thought it was like going to church. You came late and left early.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But no, it was National Night Out. It's just great. A lot of fun. Good things to do. The only other thing I'll say is the Hendricks County Recycling District, the Liston Recycling Center. You may hear me talk about that after their August 24th meeting. So after our ones, they're having some things we're going to need to change the tipping fee, and they're running in a negative, and this system's been running that way for a while, and they're hesitant to change that. And I think the board, we're going to have to kind of come together and and make some changes that aren't going to be pleasant, but we're going to need to do that. So you'll hear about that. That's all I have.
Steve, when does their grant program open up again? I think a couple years ago, we were able to get some recycled park benches is what we got, right?
Yeah. Do you remember the timing of that, Ryan? Because
They do a spring and a fall,
was it
don't they?
April? Or
I thought they told me they did a spring and a fall.
I think they do a spring
Yeah.
and a
We
fall.
applied for the spring, but we were a day late or something and they couldn't accommodate it, but then we were going to apply in the fall. So I'll follow up with them, Steve, and I'll verify that.
And likely, I'll do the same. I'll just
Okay.
make sure we know that. So,
Okay,
good.
great, thank you.
Mhm.
Everyone's already said, but great job again to all the staff and Avon Police Department and everyone that came out for National Night Out. It was phenomenal. I had leadership Hendricks County the next few days later, and everyone was talking about how spectacular it was, and they saw it on the news and things like that. I will say that I probably won't eat another hot dog for, I don't know, it's going to be months. But beyond that, great job, guys. No old business, so we'll move on to new business, the first of which has withdrawn from the agenda. Again, that was the PUD of Old Hoff Homes. But we'll go on to the approval to quote the purchase of the tractor and trade in our old tractor for the Parks Department.
Yes, thank you. I'm covering this for the Parks Department tonight. Gary's on vacation. Finally, he deserves some time off, so I'm glad he finally took off some time. So the Parks Department did budget, as you can see in the packet of information here, to replace one of their tractors. It's an existing Bobcat tractor that they have. We purchased it around 2010, and they are proposing to trade in that existing tractor and purchase a new one. They are basically buying the same exact model of tractor, just a newer version of it. As you know, we kind of have two different tractors and they kind of serve different purposes. We do have a Kubota that's bigger that has a cabin, but then this one is kind of a smaller, more agile that helps us do some of the grading work and things that we need. And we use this tractor a lot. It's an important part of our fleet. Bobcat is a corporate company, so typically you can shop different Bobcats, but Bobcat doesn't sell their equipment at other places. So Gary did get quotes from 3 different Bobcat dealers. The trade-in value typically changes, but other than that, the price for the tractor is exactly the same. In the dealership that was willing to give us the most for the trade-in, which is the one that actually maintains our tractor for us, so knows that we take pretty good care of it, actually gave us the most money, and that was $12,000 for the trade-in. The actual price for the tractor was $37,419. But then they did have a trade-in number there as well. Plus then they gave us some municipal discounts. And so our total cost would be $18,591. So it is staff's recommendation that the town council approve the purchase of the tractor from Bobcat of Indy North for not to exceed $18,591 to purchase the Bobcat CT 2035 with loader and backhoe attachments, and authorize staff to trade in the current Bobcat with loader and backhoe attachments, and then authorize the clerk treasurer to make payment for the equipment. Happy to answer any questions.
Is this the one that we needed the engine repaired on? That was going to be like $7,500 or something?
No, that was an RTV, which is like the utility vehicle, the orange little utility vehicles that they drive around. That was one of those. So yeah, this is a different piece of equipment.
Any discussion? If not, would someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the Bobcat from Bobcat Indy not to exceed $18,591 to include the loader and backhoe attachments, as well as authorize staff to trade in the current Bobcat and attachments, and authorize the clerk treasurer to make payment.
Okay, I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Greg. Yep. Greg is seconded.
Okay, we have a first and a second, Julie.
Okay, Don Loudon,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth.
4.
Thank you. Next is Resolution 2021-17, designating signatory for NDOT contracts.
I know this is a little bit strange because your rules and procedures allow me to sign contracts on your guys' behalf already.
approve that, but NDOT is going to a DocuSign process, and so they want something in writing that the council has taken action at a meeting, and they asked for basically minutes or a resolution, so I just put this into a resolution. The signatory doesn't have to be me. I just put it as me because I thought that would be easier. If we can provide multiple people, or if we want to make it Dawn, we can do that as well. But I thought in this situation, the contract will still come to the council. You will still approve it. And then that just means once it starts through the process, then it just becomes an administrative issue, which is why I put myself. But certainly if one of you wants to fill that role, but it delays it if somebody doesn't do it. And so I thought this was just easier for me to do it. Happy to answer any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward.
I think.
Instead
staff
of
is
using
fine.
names, just say town manager or designee, then it can be anybody.
They may not accept
They
that.
require you to name
Yeah.
somebody.
So it can be your name and then designee, because you don't know who that would be.
No, they require it to be just like it's in the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah. It makes sense what you say, but it's NDOT.
Who we love.
We had that conversation earlier tonight. I make a motion, we approve resolution 2021-17, a resolution of the Avon Town Council designating signatory for NDOT contracts as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not,
Stimulating.
Julie?
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Don Loudon.
4. All right, next is the final reading of ordinance 2021-18, which was an amendment to the employee handbook. Dan?
Yes, this ordinance would amend your employee handbook to comply with the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, which was federal legislation passed this year, House Enrolled Act 1065, and also provisions of Indiana House Enrolled Act 1309, which both relate to pregnancy accommodations for your employees. This ordinance both establishes your policy that would conform to those acts and also amends the employee handbook provisions regarding accommodations and leave. It also makes some other technical changes to your handbook to create safe harbors. I'd be happy to answer any questions. This is second reading.
Any discussion?
No.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2021-18, amending employee handbook as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Julie?
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Steve Eisenbarth,
4.
Next is introduction of ordinance 2021-19, amending the rules for buried utilities.
Yes, the state legislature, once again, has passed legislation which further limits your ability to restrict small cell and wireless facilities in the town. And so as you'll recall, back in 2018, the town was able to create a buried utility district, which are basically residential districts where you wanted to see utilities below ground and not a lot of these facilities. So this ordinance basically would enact 6 changes that were made by the Indiana State Legislature. So we'd be required to change our ordinance. First, it would expand the definition of what an above ground structure is to include wireless and small cell, not just what we said it was before. Secondly, it would impose a waiver process for light poles and small cells in residential areas. And that is that one of the main drivers of this legislation was to say that if you require all utilities to be underground, but you allow light poles to be in residential subdivisions, you have to let the wireless companies put their facilities on the light poles. And that was the real big step here. Thirdly, there was a provision in your ordinance that said that you would notify the HOAs of any applications that would be made. It would affect their homeowners association. The new legislation allows HOAs to notify you that rather than receiving notice, they want all of their homeowners to receive notice. And if they do that, then the petitioner, who would be a cellular wireless company, would have to provide notice to every landowner in that HOA. The fourth change is, again, it would indicate in your ordinance that if there are light poles, we have to allow that as a permitted use in our zoning ordinance. That's kind of the new law. Fifth is the right to co-locate on light poles. And lastly, the new law says that the town cannot restrict the height of wireless support structures or the minimum separation distance, both of which we tried to do under the old law, but now we can't. And so this ordinance would bring you into compliance with this new law. This is introduction only. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So this ordinance doesn't do anything for the town.
Absolutely not. It's just that we had written our previous ordinance, which outlined to the public and to landowners and also to developers of communications infrastructure. We wanted everybody to be able to see what the rules were, and now they're making us change the rules. So here we go. We're going to have to change it every time they do that.
Utility companies had better lobbyists than the cities and towns.
Really better than anyone, I would say.
They have deep pockets.
So when these HOA associations come register with the town that they want all of their citizens notified, does Julie keep that record? How do we keep track of who came in, which HOA came in and told us they wanted all their residents notified?
Yeah, well, your public works department will keep track of that. The HOA will provide those names, and then we will provide them to the applicant. Lest you think this is about transparency in government, it's not. The communication companies believe that if everyone knows, everyone loves their 5G so much, they'll all rush in and put pressure on you. Let's just be honest about what this is about. So this is not about landowners getting more information about government. This is the communications industry. They will text everybody and tell them to go to the town council meeting at Avon because it's going to be heard. So that's what this is all about.
This is a tough one because what bothers me about this is the cell phone towers that we have no control over that. They're going to have so many of them. Right. And it's going to be a tough one for us.
So how can we make this a positive thing for the town? I mean, we have neighborhoods that have no streetlights right now.
Right.
Well, yeah,
So can we make them put in a street light and then attach it to that street light?
You can't make them do anything. It's just that if you allow streetlights, then they're fair game for co-location.
We're not talking about NDOT again, are we?
No, we're not. No, I would say, here's what I would say is it's very clear since 2018, there is very little the town can do about any of this. And that if people complain to you, that you should refer them directly to their state legislatures where the votes on this legislation starting in 2018, 2019, 2020, and this year were almost unanimously in support of the communications industry. And so those who would seek you to impose local zoning restrictions to somehow protect the aesthetic in the town, you should just say that's all been taken away from us. Call your state legislature because all we have done has been stripped of our power over the years, and that's true.
Let's fast forward to final reading. And there is no support for the final reading. Then what happens?
Well, it's the law anyway. This is the law anyway, so if you don't have a local ordinance that reflects it, it's still the law. This just would allow everyone to be able to see what it is, and I think that's what you should do. I think you should make sure that your procedures in your ordinances match the actual law so that we all know what the rules are, whether we like them or not.
Yeah, it's
Okie dokie. Well, consider it introduced, I guess, right? Next is introduction of ordinance 2021-20, amending the rules and procedures for remote participation.
Yes, this ordinance would, again, was reacting to House Enrolled Act 1437, which changed the rules under the open door law regarding remote or electronic participation by members of the town council. And during the COVID pandemic, when you were not able to meet in present and be present together, you took advantage of Zoom meetings and other forms of having meetings. And we probably learned a lot. And so the question going forward was, what was the legislature going to allow in terms of going forward? And so what they did is they said, that if the governor declares an emergency or the Hendricks County Commissioners declare an emergency, then you'll be able to do what you did last year. You'll be able to get together, electronically, and you'll be able to be counted as a quorum if you're participating in that way, and you'll be allowed to vote. So then the question became, well, what if there is not an emergency? And that's the real crux of this one, of this act. And so what the legislature said was that they've modified the rule now to say that you can participate remotely. So if you're out of town on business, for example, and you still want to participate, you can do so as long as there's a quorum present here in this room, and as long as you can be heard by others in the meeting, and as long as the meeting is streamed to the public. And so if you can do those things, then you can participate electronically for up to 2 consecutive meetings, not to exceed 50% of your meetings for the year. And so the legislature has just expanded a little bit and allowed you to participate remotely. If you're ill or just away, you can do that. Again, as I mentioned, you would always need to have 3 of you here. So the maximum number you could have participating electronically would be 2, but you can vote under the prior law. If you could call in, I guess, to a meeting, but you couldn't vote and you weren't counted for the quorum. So that's the big change. You will note on page 2 of the ordinance, however, the state legislature did say that there were some things they considered, some of the things you do so important that you cannot have electronic participation when you do these things. And you'll see the list that when you adopt a budget, everybody has to be in person to vote on that. Make a reduction in personnel, which primarily relates to schools. Initiate a referendum, that has to be everybody here. Establish or increase a fee or a new tax. Use or exercise the right of eminent domain. And establish a new tax or raise the rate of a tax. And so with the rule on that, and the Public Access Counselor has since clarified, is if you're going to do any one of those things at a meeting, then there can be no electronic participation at the entire meeting, not just on that one matter. So you can't vote at all if one of those items is on your agenda. So what this ordinance would do, this ordinance would change your town codes where it talks about quorum and voting at your meetings. And it would also change, you have a rules of procedure, it would also make conforming changes. The state legislature, when it established these rules, said that you, as the local government, could make rules more strict than this. Otherwise, you could say, for example, you can only do this 1 meeting in a row instead of 2 meetings in a row. But what this ordinance has done and the way we've drafted is presented it to you the same as the state law. I'll be happy to answer any questions. This is introduction only.
A lot. So if any of those things are on the agenda, then we would know ahead of time that someone couldn't participate electronically.
Correct. And they could still zoom in, but they just can't vote and they don't count toward the quorum. And they couldn't vote on anything on the agenda that night. And that's the way I read the statute. I mean, it's pretty clear that's what it says. Then some people said that can't be what it means. And since then, Luke Paredes come out and said, no, it says what it says. So we all think we understand it now.
Any comments, discussion?
I think it makes sense, that we want to be here as much as we can. And then when it's something critical, we got to be here. And I like the idea that if you miss 2 or more, or 2 in a row is the limit. So that hopefully we won't have people skipping and doing different things, but yeah.
It's designed just to give you flexibility. I think that's what we learned during the pandemic about conducting meetings, that there were ways to do it. And there was some strong input at the State House about the fact that about disenfranchisement. And that is that, to the extent, some of you were elected from a district. And that if you were taken away because you had to travel or because you were ill, that if if you could, if we had the technology to allow you to participate and we just wouldn't, that were we disenfranchising certain parts of the town. And so that was the big driver on the side, is just what did we learn about conducting meetings during the pandemic? We learned a lot. And the legislature said, okay, we'll loosen this up and give you some flexibility. We'll see how this goes. They'll probably take a look at it next summer as well in study group or study commission, I would think. But I think that most people thought that having that flexibility was good for elected officials and also good for the people who you represent.
Anything? Okay, we'll consider it introduced. Dan, it's your turn again. Legal counsel report.
I have nothing new to report to you other than we did some training with the Plan Commission, and Bill Peebles is doing a great job on the Plan Commission. If you want to read a good staff report, take a look at his. They're fantastic. I would also say that I think that the ordinances you have before you now are kind of the last that take care of all the new laws. So just in time for budget season, we'll get out of your way and let you do that.
Thank you. Okay, this is the second opportunity for the public to come forward and speak. Is there anyone that wants to come forward? No one coming forward. Council comments. Okay, there are none. So council calendar.
Two things, if you're interested. Thank you, Julie. Two things, if you're interested in joining us for Movies on the Hill. We do have that Friday, August 20th. If you're interested, it's Lion King, so please stop by and enjoy the movie. And next town council meeting is August 26th at 7 p.m. That's all I've got.
Thank you. We're adjourned.
You didn't tell me it was 9 blank.